Want to get into the best shape of your life? It's simple. All you've got to do is run 4 miles a day, do 1,000 press-ups, and do a full body routine in the gym lasting about an hour to an hour and a half. Daily. What? So obviously writing a training program that will get you ripped and strong is fairly easy. The problem is writing one that you can actually stick to and that isn't going to destroy your body in the short term. If you train too hard, it may lead to something called overtraining. Except for the term overtraining is somewhat controversial, because of course it is, because everything in fitness is controversial. The problem is that a lot of people will tell you overtraining doesn't exist. It's just an excuse for people who are too wussy to work out every single day. And there's actually some truth to this, because the term overtraining technically refers to a syndrome that affects athletes at the top level. So the argument goes that if you can have a top tier athlete working out incredibly intensely most days, or if you can have someone going through intense special forces training and they don't generally get overtrained, then what are the chances that you're going to get overtrained? Actual overtraining occurs at that level only, and it results in months of recovery as they become demotivated, depressed, prone to injury, poor immune system, etc. It's a real serious thing. And chances are, if you're just going to the gym 2 to 3 times a week, you probably aren't overtrained. Not technically anyways. But if the conclusion you're drawing from this is that you don't need to worry about overtraining, that you can train as hard as you like and not worry about the consequences, then you've taken a logical leap too far. Because whilst overtraining might not be affecting you, there's a good chance that something else is affecting you, which is under recovery, which simply means you're not fully recovered when you next return to the gym. And as we'll actually see, there are kinds of overtraining that can be affecting you, and to break it down, to say that it's not real and therefore you shouldn't worry about it, when it's really just a matter of semantics, is pedantic and not particularly helpful, and certainly not sympathetic to people who really do struggle with burnout and injury that prevents them from making progress in the gym. So under recovery can cause a range of different issues and problems that will negatively affect your training. The first is that you won't have time to recover from small niggling injuries that can cause bigger problems further down the line, because even if that slight irritation in your knee isn't causing you any serious gripe right now, it can cause corrective movement patterns. So you overcompensate for that injury, you move incorrectly, and you thus become more likely to injure yourself in other ways or to exacerbate that existing injury. At the same time, if you're under recovered, then you aren't building and growing muscle to the same extent, because remember, training is biphasic. That means that it takes 2 stages. The first is that you break down the muscle tissue and you flood it with metabolites, you send that stimulus to grow. And the second phase is, of course, the recovery, when you actually grow, when the protein synthesis occurs, when you restore those muscle tissues, those muscle fibers. Without that recovery phase, all you're doing is breaking down and damaging the muscle and never giving it the chance to restore itself. When you return to the gym, if you're under recovered, you'll be weaker, again more likely to injure yourself, and of course less likely to make positive progress on your various different lifts. At the same time, you may experience something called adrenal fatigue, at least to some extent. When you're in the gym, you're in an aroused state, you're in a sympathetic state. So your sympathetic nervous system is kicked in, and that means you're producing adrenaline and cortisol and dopamine and things that make you ramped up, revved up, and ready to lift. And as we've seen in studies in previous videos and articles, adrenaline helps you to lift heavier weights. If you have more adrenaline, you can lift heavier. So if you're under recovered, you're not going to be able to lift as much, and you're not going to make as much progress. And eventually this can get worse and worse, as we're going to see later in this video. So I used to train really hard and never worry about recovery. When I was younger, I was so addicted to training that I would do a night out at university and stay out till 4 AM drinking heavily. And then if I hadn't done my workout that day, I would do it that night when I got home drunk at 4 AM, and then I'd wake up the next day at 10 and go and have one of those big survivors breakfasts. So I was really dedicated to my training, and I never burned out. It never became an issue. I never injured myself. I never had any problems. Today, things have changed a little bit. These days, if I train too hard, I find myself burning out or getting injured, and then I have to take weeks off the gym or just take it slower for weeks. I lose all my gains, lose all my progress, and I notice that this happens again and again. I'm someone who tends to get all excited about my training, make loads of progress, then I'll have some small setback, need to take tons of time off, and it's depressing. Elliot Hulse talked about this in one of his videos, and he said that it's a bit like having seasons. Your body has seasons where you have a season of plenty where you have tons of energy and you hit it hard, but then you have a season where you need to take it a bit easier and recover. And that certainly rang true for me. I found myself going through these cycles, and every time I try and make decent progress, every time I started to reach my 1 rep maxes and bulk up, I'd hurt myself and have to stop. This was quite depressing, and I made the assumption that it was to do with getting older. I'm 30 now, which isn't super old, but it's definitely older than I was when I was 18. That's just undeniable maths. Counting even, it's not even maths. So I assumed that I was getting older, and that thus I was, my hormone balance might not be so good, that my metabolism might not be so good, that I've picked up more injuries along the way. Where these, by the way, because I severely broke my right wrist when I was 15. I've got a knee injury, which often prevents me from squatting and things. I thought I'm just getting older. But then I realized that that's probably not actually the case, because the difference is that I'm not recovering properly anymore. See, at university, I might have trained hard and I might have gone out on nights out, but then afterwards, I would have as much time as I wanted to lie in. I'd do like 3 lectures a week or 4 or 5 lectures a week. They're like an hour to 2 hours long. The rest of the time, you could sleep. I mean, at uni, that was the only time I remember, other than being a baby, that I would take regular afternoon naps. And then immediately after I left university, I was self-employed, still living with my mate, and just lying around. Again, I used to sleep in till 1 p.m. and my work was a lot less intense. These days, on the other hand, though, I have a much more regular schedule. I wake up early in the morning, and my work has got a lot more intense. I work the same amount that I used to, and then on top of that, I do my work for Adrenal Authority, and I'm writing a book, and I've got a mortgage to pay, and just a lot more responsibilities. I'm a lot more active. I live further away. I'm visiting people a lot of the time, and yeah, so I have less time to recover when I'm not training. Although I'm not in the gym, I'm not necessarily relaxing as often. And chances are the same might be true for you. If you've noticed that you aren't gaining muscle as easily as you did when you were younger, if you keep injuring yourself, chances are that it's to do with your recovery, because this is the big point I want to make in this video. Recovery doesn't just mean that you're not in the gym. In order to recover, you need to actually rest, and you need to actually feed yourself, and you need to get proper sleep, and you can't be stressed, because essentially, as far as your body's concerned, as far as your physiology is concerned, being stressed about work, rushing off on a big commute, that's like a workout. Your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system kick in based not only on whether or not you're training, but whether or not there is a perceived threat or a perceived thing that you need to pursue, something interesting, something that arouses you. So if you're taking time off the gym, but you're also working a 9-to-5 job, and you have a very stressful and busy commute there and back, and you spend your evenings staring at a screen with lots of loud noises and colours, and you're worried about your debt, and you're worried about your relationships, and you're worried about what's going on at work, and you keep checking your email and you don't get proper sleep, then you're not recovering. You're actually still in an aroused state. You're still in a catabolic state when you need to be anabolic in order to recover. So you need to peak and be highly stressed and aroused and active when you're in the gym. That's why we take pre-workouts to get ourselves revved up. But then when you finish the workout, you need to be calm and you need to be relaxed. And like I've said before, you need to live like a lion. That means you should be lounging around, eating all the time, not letting your blood sugar dip, not being stressed out by things. And this is something that most of us can't do anymore. So if you're not recovering from the gym anymore, it's probably to do with your lifestyle outside of the gym. And that's why overtraining is a very real threat, even if you aren't an Olympic athlete. Many other things contribute to this. Most of us are dehydrated. Statistically, most of the UK and US are chronically dehydrated. Many of us don't eat as much as we should. We don't eat as well as we should. This hampers our recovery too. Most of us aren't getting enough sleep. And caffeine, by the way, is effectively stress in a mug. If you use caffeine to wake yourself up early in the morning, then you're triggering your fight or flight response to a degree. And again, you're not in a state of recovery. You're in heightened cortisol, which means lowered testosterone. I'm guilty of this too. I love caffeine, but it isn't useful if you're trying to recover and regain muscle and regain energy so you can return back to the gym. This actually all leads to something that's referred to as 21st century syndrome. 21st century syndrome is essentially adrenal fatigue, and it means that we're so wired, so on all the time, most of us on a daily basis, that we are strung out, wrung out, and we actually lose our ability to produce adrenaline and other key hormones and neurotransmitters that help us to be alert and focused. So if you make that busy commute into work where thousands of people are walking towards you and cars are honking and you're breathing in smoke and toxins, and then you get into work and you drink a big strong mug of coffee which gets your heart rate racing, and then your boss shouts at you and you're like, ah! And the first thing that woke you up in the morning was an alarm beeping loudly first thing, shocking you out of a deep sleep. And then all day at work you're just stressed, getting emails and people calling you, and then you come home and you're just tired but you are wired at the same time because you haven't really been doing any exercise, and you're staring at a screen playing Candy Crush. That's a dated reference, but you know what I mean. Getting constant notifications on your phone, still checking your work email, babies crying or whatever, your bank manager's angry at you, then that's going to lead eventually to your body being unable to produce the hormones that keep you aroused and alert. And this leads to brain fog, it leads to lowered immune system, so you're more likely to become ill, it leads to stress, of course, it leads to depression, and this is actually a form of adrenal fatigue, and all that overtraining is a form of adrenal fatigue. So you can actually be overtrained from life, even before you stack on top of that 3, 4, 5 1-hour-long sessions in the gym that are making you even more stressed, even more exhausted. So yeah, maybe overtraining isn't technically likely to affect you in the conventional sense, but the whole gamut of your life, of your training, all adding up, if it's stressful and you're not recovering, then yeah, you're going to get injured, you're not going to be building muscle as effectively, and it's going to make a huge difference to your training, and you're not going to see those gains that you want to see. So what is the solution? Well, of course, you could become freelance like me. You could work for yourself, and then you don't have the nasty commute, and you can decide which hours you want to work. I just did a video on that, so check that out if you're interested. But I do realize that that's not an option for most people. So fortunately, there are other options, and the key thing is just to be more mindful of all this and to be more aware of how you're recovering when you're taking the time off of the gym, to not only not be at the gym, but also to be actually recovering. So one way you do this is by making sure you get enough sleep. And countless studies have shown that when you sleep more, you perform better. Athletes who aim for 8 or even 10 hours of sleep see performances in their speed, their reaction times, their aim. So check out the article that accompanies this video, link in the description down below, and that will tell you more about that and link to those studies. At the same time, you need to be eating more. A lot of people who aren't recovering properly, who are injuring themselves often in the gym, simply aren't eating enough. And you'd be surprised what a difference just adding some more calories and some more protein and more nutrition can make to your recovery, because our body uses amino acids from the protein in order to restore and rebuild muscle tissue, of course, and to heal injuries. At the same time, all those nutrients perform many different important roles. Like vitamin D, for instance, is technically more of a pro-hormone, and it regulates our testosterone. It can help you with that recovery. Magnesium will help you to sleep better and to relax more. So if you're not eating a nutrient-dense diet, then you're much more likely to get worn out and wired and damaged more quickly. At the same time, you just need calories in order to fuel all these processes, to fuel the workouts, but also to fuel your actual recovery process. Drinking more water is very important. As I said already, most of us are dehydrated. If you drink more water, water is important for nearly every single chemical reaction in the body. It's crucial for digestion, for absorbing nutrients, for breaking down food. It's crucial for muscle tissue, hypertrophy. So if you're not drinking enough, then you're going to be in trouble too, and you're going to be in a state of slight stress, same as if you're not getting enough sleep. So you need to make sure you're sleeping properly, make sure you're getting enough water, make sure you're getting enough nutrition. If you want to go even further, then you can avoid caffeine. Personally, I'm not willing to go that far because I'm badly addicted and I love it. You can turn off your phone in the evening so that you're not being stressed out by that light, or at least get one of those blue blocking filter apps that will use the red shift on the screen so that it's not causing that trigger in cortisol. So things like this, helping yourself to actually recover, will make a big difference. Meditation can help a huge amount because it helps you to respond to stress better and to notice it and to calm yourself back down. CBT can help. Box breathing, which I talked about recently, can help. And supplements can help. Things that boost testosterone will make you more anabolic, so that's also an option. But one of the best things you can do is to just take a deload week every now and then. In fact, I recommend about once every 6 weeks. So a deload week just means 1 week where you're either not training at all, or you're only training with things that aren't going to stress you out, aren't going to cause physiological damage aren't going to risk injury. So that might mean things like stretching or brain training or yoga, something like that, something gentle, or like I say, just take the time literally off, use it to do some reading. A lot of people will be resistant to this idea, but actually it can prevent you from having to take much more time off later on down the line. Taking a week off isn't going to damage your muscle gains. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to start losing muscle, and that's not even counting myonuclei, which will stick around possibly indefinitely, no one's really sure, and make it much easier for you to regain any muscle that you do lose anyway. So there's not going to be any loss, there's no downside to doing this, but at the same time you'll recover from those injuries, you'll give your adrenal system a chance to recover as well, and at the same time, during this time, you can also focus on just being good to yourself, taking time out, trying to reduce the amount of stress in your life, and like I say, living like a lion. So if you're one of those people who's asking the question, I'm going on holiday for a week or for 2 weeks, should I train? The answer is absolutely not. This is the perfect time. Go on an all-inclusive holiday, eat all the meat, lie around in the sun, go in the sauna, and just relax and don't worry about anything. That's the perfect time to grow, to really focus on growing. Just as important as if it was a training routine is that recovery, because that's when you grow and that's when you prevent yourself from getting seriously damaged. And consider as well that you can reduce the amount of stress in your life in other ways, and likewise think about how your workouts are affecting your productivity, because it does cut both ways. If you're training really hard and draining your adrenal glands, then this is going to affect your ability to focus at work as well. You just might be doing too much. You might need to reprioritize what's important to you. What can you cut? Can you reduce some of those commitments? Can you just take some time for yourself? It'll make a big difference. And listen to your body. If you notice yourself getting injured more easily, if you notice that you're feeling run down, then take a week off, even if you haven't scheduled a deload week. And you can actually use a hand dynamometer to test your cortisol to testosterone ratio, which gives you a good idea as to whether you're sympathetic or parasympathetic dominant. In other words, are you recovered or are you still stressed and aroused? And are you ready to go back to the gym? I did a video on this before, so I'll link to that in the description down below. But again, just listen to your body. If you feel energetic and full of life, you're good to go back to the gym. If you think, man, this workout isn't going so well, I feel like I'm gonna injure myself, then stop, go home and take some time off. And I just want to close by saying that there are huge individual differences here. Some people can train really hard, have really busy lives, never worry about recovery, and it never seems to be an issue for them. Other people, they do the slightest bit of work and they injure themselves. And this comes down to lots of different things, such as how you respond to stress, your hormone balance, and just the resiliency of your tissue. Some of it can be trained and improved with time, and some of it you're just gonna have to manage and play the hand that you were dealt. So I talked in a previous video on flow states about how the top performers, both in athletics and in special forces, are those people who are able to get more aroused, more alert during competitive activities, but then also to become more parasympathetic dominant when they're at rest in order to relax more and to recover more. So these top performers, their secret is that they are more aroused when they need to be on and they're more relaxed when they need to be off. So this is again a sign of just how important it is to chill and to recover, and again how much of an impact individual differences make. And when you think about it, what are steroids? Anabolic steroids raise testosterone, which is the most anabolic hormone. It's all about recovery, it's all about rebuilding tissue in your downtime. And these of course are the people who take steroids, although they have many downsides and I'm not recommending them, you can see the huge benefits it makes in terms of strength and muscle gain. So that just goes to show the biggest hack to building muscle is all about emphasizing recovery. So that's what you need to do. You need to emphasize recovery and enhance your hormonal balance, and maybe look into things like CBT and box breathing. I've talked about some of those concepts on this channel before in order to improve your ability to recover, as well as prioritizing it in your programming and just being more mindful of how stressed and busy you are the rest of the time if you want to prioritize your physical performance. Thanks a ton for watching, guys. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. If you did, then please leave a like, please share it around. That helps me immensely. Comment down below and let me know what tips you have for enhancing recovery. Thanks a ton again for everything you've done so far, all the comments, they keep me going, they inspire me to keep making more videos, for chatting to me on the Facebook group. Check out the links to the social media down below, by the way, and on Instagram. Really appreciate it. We're at 30,000 subscribers nearly now, so there's loads of momentum. It's really exciting and have you guys to thank for it. So yeah, it's awesome. If you want to see more videos like this, then hit subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications. Of course, I'll be covering more topics on strength training, bodybuilding, fitness, performance, calisthenics, martial arts, all that usual stuff, as well as brain training, productivity, technology, VR, nootropics, working online. If that all sounds good, then thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.